Catarina.
Which one?
Catarina.
Catarina Provincia. Catarina.
Ampio, there you go.
Started with our regularly scheduled South Central Regional Transit District Board of Director meeting. For the record, today is Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. It is 1:35 p.m.
Oh, okay, thank you.
1:35 p.m.
Thank you so much.
If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, if, Becky's the one that does the roll call, correct? Yes. Okay, Becky, if you could do the roll call, please.
Certainly. Javier Perea is absent. Nora Barraza.
Here.
Meiji Powie. Absent. Yvonne Flores.
Here.
Manuel Sanchez.
Present.
Diana Murillo.
Present.
Thank you. Robert Martinez. Absent. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Becky. At this time, if we could have a motion to approve our agenda, please.
So moved by Flores.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda by Councilor Flores. We could have a
Second by Murillo.
Okay. Second by Mayor Burillo. Any discussion, comments regarding the agenda? Hearing and seeing none. Motion, roll call, please.
Nora Barraza.
Yes?
Yes.
Yvonne Flores. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez.
Yes.
Diana Murillo.
Yes.
Passes. Thank you.
Okay, motion does pass. The next item is public input. At this time, we invite anyone out in the public to come to the podium, state your name for the record. Seeing none, we will move on to the next agenda item.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may interrupt, I'm sorry, this is David Armijo. Would you like to, we have our interns today. I wonder if maybe, because it's public input, we could maybe have them
Say a word or two.
say a word or two or be introduced. And if I may, maybe Sarah Vasquez could introduce them.
Okay.
Is that okay? Thank you.
They're shy. Oh, one young man is not here.
Hello. Hi, my name is Zach Minhares, and I'm working for the maintenance department.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome, Zach.
Hi, my name is Matthew Arroyo. I'm a senior at Gaston High School, and I'm an intern in South Central, working in the maintenance department.
Okay, welcome. Thank you. Now, ladies, you can't let these men be braver than you all.
Hi, my name is Stacy Flores. It's my second year, and I will be a senior in Gadsden High School, and I'm working as an administrative assistant. Yeah? Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Welcome.
Second year.
Second year.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Mendoza. I'm going to be a junior at Gadsden High School, and I work with the administration department.
Very good. Welcome. Thank you, the four of you.
I just want to make a footnote. I know the commissioners are on the phone. I was at the commission meeting yesterday, and they did bring out a lot of the young people and interns as well, and that's kind of where I got this idea, so I'm sorry I didn't put it on the agenda.
Oh,
Shame
no,
on
that's
me.
fine.
But I have to say on behalf of the county, we were taking interns way back. This has been about 5 years or so, even before some of the funding options were available. So it's extremely wonderful to see, for kids, for younger people, sorry, younger people that they have this opportunity. And of course, our positions, especially for the young men, because they're in the heat in the maintenance shop, but that's no less challenging for the young ladies who are also doing a lot of administrative and shuttling between our facilities. So we actually look forward to having interns where that's not always been the case. And I know when I started my career, I worked in organizations that didn't want to have interns, and it's hard to believe those days existed, but yes, so we really welcome them, and we're excited that they're a part of this, and we really are grateful to the county of Doña for the efforts that they have for making this opportunity available for these young people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armijo, and I agree. We have 9 summer interns at the town of Mesilla, and we utilize them. I mean, they are so efficient. We are very, very thankful to the county for allowing us to participate in the summer internship program. But we have a wide variety of fields that they're all working in, so we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of the SCRTD meeting minutes of April 26, 2023. We could have a motion on the floor, please.
I move approval. This is Sanchez.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Sanchez to approve the minutes of April 26, 2023. And if we could have a second, please.
Second, Murillo.
Okay, we do have a second by Mayor Murillo. Any further comments or discussion regarding the meeting minutes of April 26, 2023? Hearing and seeing none. Becky, we could have roll call, please?
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Yvonne Flores,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez,
Yes.
Diana Murillo.
Yes.
Passes. Thank you.
Okay, the motion does pass. The next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report. Mr. Armijo?
Thank you so much. Again, David Armijo, Executive Director. I try to keep this concise, but, I always like to get some information out there. I also want to remind the board, we have a couple presentations coming up, which is on our budget for the coming year as a tentative, and then we're going to follow that next month with a final budget to go into the new year, and I'll let Adam handle that. Some of the information that's in this presentation will be in the annual report, which is a requirement of our district bylaws. So this will be broken into 3 areas. Since we're now at the year end for the calendar or our own fiscal year, which ends in June, not the federal fiscal year, which ends in September. So we're always balancing the 2 different reports. So this is for the last 12 months. I'll get into the presentation in a minute. When you see the slide, you'll see grants administration took on a whole new world. A lot of work has gone on to the staff and certainly to Adam and his budget, his presentation he'll have. And then I want to talk about what that means. What are the challenges as we go forward? These are the ARBOC buses that came in this last month. We've talked about these. They've been on order for nearly 3 years, going back to the beginning of the pandemic. So we got the first 2 of 4 in this past month. On the slide, our ridership for the last 12 months is up 27.8%, which when you look at it in the 12 months, you can see on the slide that we carried a lot of people. That's up from 77,000 a year ago and up from 53,000 the year before that. So we've been adding about 20,000 or more a year. What's most significantly for this past year was we haven't added any service. So this is just basically more people riding the buses, and this is keeping the service out there and meeting on time, demand, and so on. And so that's really been good. You can see from the numbers, vast majority of ridership is on the yellow route, which goes in and out of El Paso and Solon Park, Santa Teresa. But also the red route, which has always been our number 1 here, did very well, almost got to 12,000. So we've actually done very well. The green route actually caught up and passed the purple. It actually did over 6,000. If you remember, the green route was kind of where the copper was. Now the copper route is up about 40%, even though it's only at 1674. So the green route was where the copper was in its first couple of years. So there's a lot of potential service opportunities. And the copper is really an internal route that comes in from Doña Village, where it used to connect with, used to be the Greyhound bus, but now the Greyhound bus is over at the Move It Center in town. So it comes in the back way, connects to Mayfield High School, and then works its way into town. So that's very much a local connector, and it covers service that Sun Roadrunner does not provide on that section of the county and or the city line. So we're in and out of both the county and the city. So that route, and then it goes on to Mesilla Park, it has huge potential. I think that route's going to be much, much bigger over the next few years. And then it's really wonderful to see the green route take on so much effort. Excuse me, Councilor, you have a question?
Is it appropriate to ask questions as it presents?
Please.
Oh, thank you. So, David, thank you so much for those wonderful numbers. So this is from last year to this year. You said it continues to grow. When you first said
Yes.
that, I thought, oh, in spite of COVID. But I saw July 22, which is my birthday, and I thought, oh, July 22nd, but it's actually the year 2022. So my question is, does it still continue to go up in spite of COVID, or are those numbers readily available?
In fact, when you see the annual report, I've been working with Adam, he's helping me with the numbers. We've got this thing with seven years of data. It's so much data, you just can't put it on a slide.
Okay.
It's got to be broken up. That'll be in the annual report, you'll see that. It's going to show all 7 years. And in the 7 years going back to 2016 through 2023, we've only had one down year, and that was 2020 with the pandemic. Every year has been up, and the last 3 years have been up, respectively, 27.8 or 8.8% this last year, 36% the year before, and so on and so forth. So we've done very, very well. Part of it is we've been able to maintain, as difficult as it's been, to keep our service in place. And although we scaled back during COVID with some of the school trips and some other stuff, we were able to keep most of our service in place. And so we were able to respond much more quickly than some of our peers.
And the green route, does it stop here? And then if people want to move on to other places, they transfer somewhere?
The green route comes through town after it makes the connection at the Doña Village. It comes in through the back area. It actually connects over where the grocery store or where the furniture store is. And that's where, you've got that, and it connects to the silver route. But most importantly, it comes through town and it makes connections to the DAC, Community College on the west side, also all the hospitals, comes through Lowman, the mall, and then it works its way to New Mexico State University. So it makes major stops.
And the silver starts further east.
Correct. Actually,
So it's really connecting.
What I actually hope to do at some point when we have enough resources, that bus gets so close to Mesilla, it'd actually be good to connect them and actually have a loop.
Oh, wow.
So, and in fact, when I was in Dallas, we used to call those crosstowns, and I actually think someday that would be a good route to have internally, and so that the Hatch route would actually end as it comes into town, which will allow it to turn around and go back and add more service, which would help that ridership. And then the copper route might actually become the interlocal route that connects Doña, the Move It Center, Mesilla Park, and then comes all the way back and connects the hospitals and all that. What Loretta and I have to figure out is which direction does it go? So that's the.
Doesn't it go both ways?
Well, we could do it both
Outbound,
ways. That takes more buses, but again, that's a lot of that depends on how big we get and where we go, and also how we work with Roadrunner, because we don't want to really duplicate what they're doing. But we know that we have a lot of service in the county that doesn't have area. There's no service on the East Mesa, and so there's so many different areas of what we have to do with limited resources. Those are discussions for another day.
And
Thank you,
just kind of back to Councilor Flores' comment is, where can a rider get off and get back on to an RTD bus? I mean, during the route?
All the way through. We share stops with Roadrunner. So when we're going by the mall, they can connect there if they're getting off at the mall.
Yeah, that's a big
and then they have the option of going back down. The other reason we've thought about if we don't take the green route to connect to Mesilla, the other option is eventually take it back into the Move It Center so that you would have that connection there.
Okay.
So that's the other option.
Madam Chair, so apropos of all these connections and all that, because, I mean, I love what SCRTD is doing, so thank you, gentlemen, for everything you do, because it's really connecting our people down here. And people, we're like the second largest state in the country, and yet we're the most sparsely populated. So it means our populations are spread all over. And is there, my question is, would there be like a public service announcement that could pop up here, there, anywhere, the radio, TV, during, I think a lot of people watch the news, the 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock news, and do a PSA and just like show a map pop up, just like a 30-second or 60-second promo. Is that possible, or is that being done and I've missed
Well,
it?
everything's possible. It's a question of cost. And so
Well,
we looked at
PSAs are
that.
public service announcements.
Public service can be done.
and
We
they're
do
free.
work with PBS at the KVI,
KR
whatever the one.
KRW.
Yeah, KRW. We do that. Our newest buses, we'll show you that in a minute. Those buses, in fact, I'll go back. There it is. You can see the racks on the side. So they actually come with advertising racks. And so we're investigating how we might put stuff like that on there. We're trying to increase it, put stuff like at the Wi-Fi. We have Wi-Fi on all the buses. They're air conditioned, you don't think
Yeah,
you have to
and
tell people that, but right now that'd actually be a good advertisement.
I mean, if you could get buses out to
Just get on the
Cloudcroft,
bus, ride,
they'll
and
be packed.
use the Wi-Fi. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
thank you, thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So-
Thank you, Councilor Flores.
So the next section, I want to talk about the grants administration. I broke it into 4 areas, so I'll try to get through this quickly. The first one, of course, we do get annual grants from New Mexico DOT. We started with about $300,000 or $400,000 this last year. I think it was 1.7 million, and that includes our local match in there, but well over $1 million of just operating or federal funds. We also get money that are competitive, and we did get a lot of money for the electric buses. We'll go through that. And then we get money from the member agencies, and we receive money from Doña County through our operating agreement, which has been really critical in providing the local matches that we need for operating capital. The New Mexico Annual Grant Award includes some 20-plus transit agencies across the state. The state of New Mexico determines how much funding any agency gets based on their productivity or their performance, and they have 8 factors for that, and those factors include administrative cost ratios for service miles, ridership, and so on. I'm actually going to show you the 8 here in a minute. We came out on top. I put the columns here by those are the 8 functional areas, and I did our rank last year and our rank this past year with the award that we got in the last 30 days. And so for ridership, we were number 3 in the state, up from 4. Administrative cost ratio, we actually were number 8 among our peers. That means cost effectiveness, dollars for dollars, admin and whatnot. Cost per trip, we actually went down a little bit, but we're at $14.22. And I'll ask the Chair Baraza, I think you might remember back in the early days, and we were being compared to
Oh, yes.
huge number. I'm not even going to repeat them.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, they're taken out of context, but at any rate, we are very highly ranked. Cost per passenger trip, very positive at $2.32. And then we got number 1 for our regional transit, RTPO gave us a high priority. We also got number 1 for budget expended. This is an Adams category, so he spent every dollar that was available. He got to the 100%. We're the only one in that category, so thank you, Adam. Our administrative cost, number 2. Overall, when you look at all these factors, we came out number 1, and I'm going to show you that next. This gets a little bit busy. You have to look at it in a different dynamic. We maybe get copies of this out to you. But if you go all the way to the right column, and it says agency rank, that's where SCRTD is listed. And we came in with an average rank of 3.14. The closest to us was 5.14. So not only did we get number 1, we were way out in front of number 1. And this brings down every agency in all those categories. So we performed very, very well. Now, I'd like to say how excited we are by that, but unfortunately, it's because we're poor. I mean, honestly, we got to be honest. We scrimped and saved, and we got by, and limited resources. The staff, they do a lot of extra effort, so thank you so much for that. But this is not done by one person. The operators do an extremely good job as our ambassadors, our mechanics. They found ways. We cannibalized buses. We took parts off of buses to keep buses going during the pandemic. Some of that happen by everybody. We weren't the only agency, but we did that better than most. And so this is to be applauded. Now, someday we might fall off as number one, but we might actually be happier. I'm not sure. Yeah.
No, Becky, I want to give you a bad time. I'm so sorry. So how is it that, because we're so poor, we're number one?
Well, you
I
know,
mean, how does that work?
I'm gonna
And
take,
you, I mean,
I'm gonna
this-
take a comment that was just made a little while ago. We're the second largest city. you
Yes,
know? Aren't we second largest county or something like that? We're pretty high up.
definitely the second largest city.
So
area.
the city transit has 250 square miles of
Uh-huh.
service that they provide, or the city is, and they provide 50 square miles of service. We have 3,800 square miles of service, and we provide 115 square miles of service. So we actually have a bigger service area,
How many miles?
115 compared to 50 for Roadrunner. Roadrunner has shorter trips, but they have more frequency of service, and they carry more people than we do. And that's wonderful. That's what a municipal agency does. We're a regional county agency.
Regional.
We go long distances. Our average trip is 35 to 40 miles or more, even more so when we go up on the green route. But at any rate, that's what we're set up to do, and that's our challenge, and we meet that. That also gives us a leverage. So if we're cost effective in the way we use our fuel and our operators, then we are number one. And one of the reasons is because we pull out of service in Anthony, which is across the street. There's like no deadhead there at all. When we leave Las Cruces to go up north on the green route, we have a remote service over at the Mesilla Hospital, right? And that's on what street?
Delray. Yeah.
So again, I think what is it, a couple miles? I mean, we just don't have much deadhead. And then when we operate out of Sunland Park on those routes, we're right in service right there at the at City Hall. It's about a mile or so. So we just don't have a lot of deadhead. That's a huge number. Most agencies run 10 to 14% of deadhead. Now, I'd have to ask Adam to figure the numbers, but I'm sure that's over $100,000 in our budget. That's why we're number one.
Because we use our money well.
The other
we
reason,
give them
and I had this conversation with the TA administrator, she asked me, why don't we contract service out? And I told her we can't afford it. We're more cost effective than the contractors. In fact, we replaced our contractor because we're more cost effective. So the time, as the years go by, things will change, and we'll have to address that. Our next hope, and we'll talk about that next month in the annual report, is we're looking at what will we do? We have a 10-year plan. What's in the 10-year plan? And then we'll go into some of the things, what are the next service things we do and how are we doing funding-wise?
Apropos of the 10-year plan, would Sharon Thomas be working on that alongside?
We completed that 3 years ago. In fact, we completed it during the first year of the pandemic, as I recall. I think we
Yeah,
started in
but-
2020.
But,
And
well,
it's on our website, but I'll certainly get you another copy.
But it's not to be reviewed until, what, 7 years from now?
I think
I mean, it's a
we start
10-year
to look at
plan,
those
3
things at
years
about
ago.
5 years. It
5
took us
years.
2 years to put it together. So, either we do a refresh, whatever. I don't know. I'll talk to the state. They paid for the last one, so when they have money available for us, we'll see what we want to do.
Do another one.
But I would say 2025.
Okay, and hopefully Sherry will
years.
still be living here. Yeah, great. Thank you, Ms. Edmond.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, let me continue.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Sanchez. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Amigo.
Thank you. Yes, please.
A couple of, when you go back to the slide that showed the ranks, the admin to operation ratio, that showed we were 8th, but I didn't see a value in there. And I was wondering, and maybe I just
Yeah, let me-
didn't see it appropriately. So I was just wondering,
You can probably see it on this slide. Can any of you see that one? The admin to ratio should be on the
Yeah.
slide. I think partly because I was doing it by fiscal year and just trying to put them in there. I never got a chance to go back to fix that.
so is that 20, I'm trying to see here, it's a little blurry on my screen, but is that 23rd? Is that what I see?
I see 22 points.
Oh, 20,
Yeah, it says number 2, so that's SCRT. We're 3rd from the bottom, so the admin ratio, I don't think that gives a number.
I don't see a number.
Yeah.
Says it's a ranking.
Yeah. I think that's why I didn't do it. I don't think we have one. I think the closest is the average rank number, third from the bottom, and that's a 3.14. But I'll have to do some more research and find out where that is. But I don't think it
Okay.
was in the report.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. Thank you for that clarification. And then the second thing was just more of a comment, and I think it just kind of piggyback on Councilor Flores's comment about the 10-year plan. And, one of the things that I think is while it's not necessarily reviewing for maybe updates, but I would love to see what our progress is now that we're 3 years into that plan, to see how we're progressing, and then to understand what the strategy is going to be to ensure that we're making strides to reach that plan or the goals in the next 7 years. So I don't know how we might be able to do that, but I would just like to see how, if the plan is there, how are we using that to develop our strategy to drive us? So I think it was a really good point by Councilor Flores. So thank you, Councilor, for bringing that up. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. I wanted
Thank you.
to impress an MIT grad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez.
We'll come back and report on that. Thank you for that. So this is probably one of the most challenging slides that Adam and I have gone back and forth on. What I try to do on this slide is kind of throw, before he does his budget, but to try to put it in context for fiscal year 23, where we are and where the funds are. And so what I used on this one is I broke it down between what's operating, what's capital. This is really important because it helps us identify where the local match kind of goes to. On the left-hand side, you can see that we got 2 Section 5339 bus and capital grants, one for 2.5, one for 3.1. That adds up to the 5.5 million that's shown in the far top right category. The 5311 is the rural grants we get from New Mexico DOT. That's broken into 2 categories, operating and capital. We got for the first time from the Mesilla Valley MPO urban funds of $49,840. I believe they're talking about this year that we would get approval sometime soon. Actually, we're already into June. We had it last June, but probably be about 54,000. It might be a little higher. We'll see where that goes. It was very helpful, helped pay for a couple positions. And then the 5307, which we've been talking about for a long time, this is what we discussed in the last board meeting, where we have about 694,000 we've had ready to go for almost 2 years. We still haven't gotten approval and release of the funds. I have it showing as 294 operating, 400,000 capital. Primarily, those funds are capital. You can do some operating, switch, preventive maintenance, and what's it called, JARC funds? Yeah, JARC funds and some direct operating funds, but it ends up being not the majority. So about 40% of it operating, 60% capital. And that's just the fiscal year 22. We haven't programmed fiscal year 23 yet. The CMAQ, that's the 1.8 million that we would draw down. We got 3 grants. I'm only showing the fiscal year 23 grant from El Paso MPO. And then, of course, DAC, our contract that we just got signed off this year for $935. We broke that up into 2 parts. The membership fees, DMV from Sunland Park. I noticed our fare box numbers are up, Adam, so we're doing really well. It's over $1,100 a day. So I estimate about 48,000, but that actually may be low. We picked up another 300,000 capital, which can be used for local match anywhere for our other contracts from the legislature. That's up from 200,000 a year ago and $90,000 a year before that. So we've been doing very well there. So that breaks down to 2 million in the operating, 8.4 million in capital, and roughly 10.5 million overall. Yes.
Yes.
For the record, this is Yvonne Flores, especially for you, Becky. This is dedicated to the one I love. These are the funds that we received, and I'm looking at New Mexico legislature, and they gave, they allocated, they never give anything away. It's our own money, our taxes. $300,000 for capital improvement or capital.
Specifically, those funds coming out of the legislature, Madam Secretary, those can only be used for capital, and we're using these for the local match for the capital, for buses. So the electric buses, they'll use it towards that.
Oh, yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's not for operational. Now, so do we have a lobbyist that goes up to a legislature to get funds? Oh, you're a man of many talents.
I had a conversation with our chair yesterday. I am going to recruit you all this coming year. So I think I've taken it as far as I go. I've learned that January, February, March time period is nice, and that's when they start to make commitments. But we really got to be talking to them a
We've got to be
long
talking about it now, if not yesterday. But, and it's only going to be a 30-day session.
I like that better.
Well, but it's even probably more hectic. I haven't been up for a couple of years, but it was just so hectic. And unless you really can nail down those legislators and the committee chairs, it's virtually useless to go up there.
Well, I mean, from my experience, is we try to meet with our legislators prior to the legislative session because you have their full attention. Because when they're up there, you never know if they're in committee meetings or if they're available, and it's more of a waiting game, sitting there waiting than what it's worth. And I think it's always important to meet with them prior, and that our committees have our lists together at that point with the literature and the background information. So, I mean, that's something
We should.
we should definitely consider, and they like to meet around October, November.
Before they
That's
really
correct,
get out
and
there.
that's exactly right. And
And then Nathan Small, I believe, is the head of the finance committee, by the way.
well, the entire
He
finance
is, 'cause
committee
he-
is on our bus right now heading to El Paso.
Who
so-
is?
The finance committee.
Oh, oh, that's right.
there-
That's right. It's on their schedule this afternoon.
Yeah. So they're,
Yeah, so,
yeah, we're taking care of them.
so they're on
So
one of our
Nathan's on the
buses?
bus, Joanne Ferrari. and
SCRTD?
The chair of the finance committee is on there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
about an hour ago.
Good, well, good.
But,
See,
I mean, that's just a
that's good work.
recommend. I know we're way outside the subject now.
No, we're not off, this is money. This is, money, money, money.
But definitely,
And
to be
then,
considered a meeting with them prior.
yeah, we should, and I know that, I don't think Diana, Joanne is on the finance committee, but Nathan is. It's a very powerful position.
Yeah, we're
And,
fortunate.
yeah, so, and he's a lovely human being. So we should probably,
Well, good. Well, this takes me to my final slide. My first point is, all that money you just saw, the 8.5 million, that's available for us in case of the FDA federal funds, 6 years. So it doesn't have to be all drawn down in 1 year.
oh, okay.
We have time. Each year, there'll be a program for local match. So that gives us time to get more money obligated and committed by the legislature, as well as other funds that we would do locally. Again, the projects are multiple years. It's going to take us a while to do that. This includes our zero emission plan that we submitted last June. We're one of the first in the state to have our own plan. Even NCRTD, which is a great agency, they're just now putting together their plan. So this will allow us to transition to electric power, charging stations, solar powers. All this is more and more information. I'm going to cover a lot of this in the annual budget report that I'm going to give you all. Got that drafted out, so we'll have that ready for next month. Get that to the board in advance, and then I'll make a presentation on that. But I will say this, that as we go into the legislative requests, which is what we were just talking about, 2024, we will be looking at commitments, and we'll talk about what those requests or what the ask will be. And that's it. Any questions you may have?
Just a big thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
This is
Commissioner
Commissioner
Sanchez? Yes, sir.
Sorry, Mr. Mijo, I know you're,
No, go ahead, please.
just for a second, I think I was going to ask regarding, or even make the suggestion as they were talking about preparing for the legislative session, that, I think many of the different organizations and jurisdictions in Southern New Mexico do an excellent job of preparing a quick presentation, especially when talking with legislators. I know the City of Las Cruces does, but I was going to even suggest that perhaps reaching out to Patrick Peck at the South Central Solid Waste Authority. And that's just an example of a kind of a joint a JPA organization that I think does a very good job of having, they made a very good booklet that they can have a quick conversation, but leave highlighting what their important capital projects are and what they were looking for funding with the legislators. So they said, I think if you needed some suggestions, we have, there's a lot in Doña County, but that was just one that came to mind, especially being just down the road from or across the street from the government center right now.
True.
Thank you. That's a great idea. We're certainly looking to reach out with some of the other associations like the Green Chamber and certainly other organizations. So that would be great. And of course, continue to work with our member agencies as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, if we have, obviously it makes it easier for us if you help, I mean, obviously we're the board, but I think if you help define and give us the tools that we need to be able to have those thoughtful conversations with the legislators, then we can amplify your voice as elected leaders. So, but we look forward to trying to work and see what we can do to get some additional funding, because I know there's a lot of important projects that are coming up on the list. So thank you, Mr. Armijo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez. Any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. The next item on the agenda is a resolution accepting the tentative budget approval for FY 2024 district budget. And Adam Shea will do a presentation prior to an action item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, board members. This here is a presentation for a tentative fiscal year 2024 budget. The only reason it is temporary is because there are certain not expenditures, but amounts that we have yet to receive the actual amounts for, and one had to do with intercity funds for our operating side. So I have put in an estimated amount. So to start off with, though, however, revenue and capital. I show that revenue is a 3.7 decrease from fiscal year 23. Now, it's decreased by about $100,000, and it's because we have moved expenditures or expect expenditures from other accounts other than what was expended for fiscal year or earmarked for fiscal year 23. So in essence, revenue is down 3.7%, but our capital appropriations are increased by 7.5%. I don't think that is a surprise, considering we are striving to obtain the Sunland Park facility. And we gained a couple of more vans for our van pool program. We've added a few more buses in another order, and we are carrying over funds from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24. Again, we're talking about multi-year grants. This had to do with the rehabilitation for plans that we have for the Anthony facility. Total of 5 buses that we have on order. Again, time after COVID, it's taken time to actually get them to be made. But that's carrying over also to fiscal year 24. And then the zero emissions planning. We will probably have other plans once we do acquire the Sunland Park facility. That will come into play at a later date. The next page has to do with a total of the operating revenue that we have earmarked for fiscal year 24. Has to do with membership dues, grants and MOUs, and amounts that we are receiving or that we are hoping to receive from the Texas 5307 funds. We have bus fares, advertising, and DMV fees as well. And again, a carryover from previous fiscal year we're creating for the next fiscal year. We anticipate the revenue, operating revenue of $2.6 million, and our expenditures, the nice thing to be able to point these out, it is earmarked to be about $2.4 million. That leaves us almost $200,000 as within our savings or our pot to be able to pay for some of the fixed assets that we've got coming along the lines.
Does that carry over?
Pardon me?
It would be a carryover.
What's that?
She asked if it was a carryover.
Some are carried over
And some are used.
and some are just expended.
Okay.
Yes,
And it's
within the
probably
current
better
fiscal
to
year.
expend it.
I'm sorry?
Is it better to expend it so that you show that you are using the money that has been?
It is better to expend it, but we have to, in many respects, especially when it comes to the capital, unless you got the capital, you can't pay for it.
Right.
It's
In
got
other
to
words,
carry
like,
over.
And on our printout, under carryover of funds from FY 2023, which would be the Anthony facility, the buses, and the zero emissions planning, correct? Those are the ones,
Yes,
the capital
yes,
that
that's
you're talking about.
exactly. And under the expenditures, and that has to do with the revenue and capital that I have covered so far. Now, under expenditures, one of the things that we have taken to heart is a study that has been done within the state of New Mexico on compensation. Now, in looking at the compensation and comparing what we pay our drivers and dispatchers and everybody within our agency and comparing that with the other transit agencies of the state, we found that we are at the bottom of the list, unfortunately. So in that respect, the administrative heads of this agency has met and discussed as far as taking those compensations and increasing the amounts that we do pay our employees. This particular expenditures that I have indicated, take those into account. For instance, we are looking at bus drivers. That's the majority of the positions that we have within our agency. In comparing with other agencies, we have found out that we pay our employees almost a couple of dollars an hour lower than other agencies in this state. And all it's maybe a surprise and everything, but it is a fact that we have compared our agency to those agencies. Now, when I say that, it's when the compensation study was completed. And if I recall, the compensation study was dated, thank you, it was 22, wasn't it? So it was 22. So again, So again, at that time, the hourly rate that we have been paying our employees was off a couple of dollars an hour. Okay, we have made strides over the last couple of years to increase the amount that we are offering our employees. So
Is that-
at this point,
Who did you compare it to?
this was compared to NCRTD, Rio Metro, all the transit agencies.
Northern New Mexico, basically?
Northern New Mexico, as well as down here. Roadrunner participated. Who else do we got down here?
Folks in Deming.
Right, Deming, Ruidoso, Clovis, all transit agencies within the state put their information in. And again, according to the study, we were at the bottom of the list on every position that we have in the organization. And all, which is, it's sad, but it is a fact of life. So what we have been trying to do is increase the amount of compensation that we have for our employees. I think it makes our employees stay with us rather than go someplace else, and seriously look at how much they're making and compare those to any other agency that might approach them. You know, the only reason is because a lot of agencies are not taking into account the employee benefits that are offered the employee. A lot of the agencies, they have their employees at part-time, so they can't offer them benefits. So they offer them a little bit more in actual wage. So what we've done is, and again, that study had both just wages and then it had fringe benefits on top of it. Okay, so you're looking at two different columns. And unfortunately, in comparison, we were at the bottom of the list. So we've made strides to improve the amount that we're paying our employees. And as such, we're requesting the following. In the fiscal year 24 budget is that a total of 10% be considered as an increase. Now, the amounts that I used to work off of has to do with the current bus operations, and that's every position as well as the current routes that we're taking, and to make room for increase in the number of times that we go on a particular route. A lot of our routes are a couple of times a day. We want to be able to increase that. We also want to be able to increase the number of days a week that we're operating. So in that vein, the amount that it is requested would increase our employee wages and fringe benefits to 10.8% over the fiscal year 23 budget. Now that would add to the overall increase to the budget for fiscal year 24 to 12.9%. Again, this is tentative. We anticipate having a finalized budget come next month when we get the final numbers. But as far as expenditures, I don't anticipate them changing much after this unless the board says otherwise. So as such,
I have a question on this holidays. When did we give the employees a raise?
pardon me?
When did we just give the employees a raise?
That was last year.
July.
It was, yes, July last year. We had a 5% COLA.
5%?
Yes, that was across the board. Now, remember, at that time, cost of living or inflation was upwards to, I think it was like 8% at that time. And also, we were, 5% is not much. In this particular vein, we are not only bringing the compensation that we're planning on paying our employees up to state standard, and all, but it would offer or help us to keep the employees that we have. And we have found that our HR definitely can attest to this, that we found that it's very difficult to fill some positions. So
And I think
retaining
this is something we're all
employees.
encountering, though, Mr. Shea.
sorry?
It's not just the regional transit that's experiencing it. As government entities, we too are experiencing the same scenario you are. Unfortunately, like our staff, we were only able to give them 2-3% increase. I mean, and that's why I'm thinking 10% is really a big jump. I think the city also had like 2-3% increase. So 10% is significantly very high. And
Adam,
so,
do you have the other Excel file that we're working on this morning? Do you bring that with you? The one,
Oh, this
the one
one
that
here.
shows the, yeah.
Yes,
no,
with
and I understand, I mean, you did a survey from all the municipal or regional transit
Transit,
districts
right.
throughout the state, and we've basically kind of are doing the same thing. And in the town of Mesilla, I know we're trying to also be competitive to everything else. So I understand where you're coming from, but 10% is very significant. I don't know that I could even support that in terms of 10%. I know by this affecting the overall increase of the budget, are we having to cut services in order to accommodate the increases?
Okay, let me we need to move to the bottom line and come back to that, because that's a very
Okay.
good question, if I may. So if we look at our current positioning right now, expenses and revenues, we are over in revenues by $250,000. So we have a surplus
Of projected revenues.
currently. And even though those numbers are lower, my next presentation is going to talk about why we have even more money coming in. But we'll get to that in a minute. So what I wanted to show was the analysis. So when the New Mexico compensation study was done last year, We actually had a presentation in October of 2023, so it's more recent. It was done in the spring. It started in 2022, but it was pretty much done in the spring of 2023. So one of the things that the architect or the author of that, and this again was championed by the State of New Mexico Department of Transportation, as well as the New Mexico Transit Association. And so what the author said is you need to be careful, because when you're at the bottom, like we are near the bottom, then you're dealing with two problems. You're dealing with trying to be competitive in hiring people, and you're also trying to keep retaining people, retention.
Right.
And so what he said was, if you put money in for a COLA or something like that, that's wonderful. But the thing is, you won't be able to catch up. You're still going to be behind. Now, comparisons should be made. Roadrunner here in town is paying 19 plus an hour to start. We're paying 15. I believe the folks at Boone Transportation is paying over $17 an hour, and that's in our backyard in Anthony. So even with what we're talking about, we're talking really a 5% adjustment to get caught up a little bit, and the COLA, which would be 5%, that combined is 10%. But even with that, and again, we don't have the chart to look at.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That would only get you to within well, actually, it gets you to about $60.50 an hour. So we're still behind by $3 an hour. And I don't even know where Las Cruces is going to go, but I'm assuming they're going up higher. So we're reaching that point where we're kind of staying afloat, but the turnover rate is not high. We're keeping most of our people. The turnover rate is in the new hires. The new hires don't stay. You know, they see where the salaries are. I go, oh, you know, I think I can make a little more money somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think that's a trend. I mean, we are definitely experiencing in the town of Mesilla, and it's not necessarily have to do with pay. It's just after COVID, I don't know what happened with employees. You know, the retention is not there. New employees start, they'll with us a couple of weeks, and then they're gone. And so, you know, I understand where you're coming from, because I think the majority of industry, whether it's government or anything else, our private industry, are experiencing the same problem. I think it's just a nationwide scenario. My biggest concern is, I understand we all want to be competitive with everyone else around us in terms of salary, but financially, you know, that's my biggest concern. And the other is, are we taking money from services in order to accommodate a 10% increase?
I understand what you're saying. However, I have taken into account that 10%, and we still have a surplus of almost $200,000 using these figures at the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, and I understand. I mean, that's good to know, but you always have to expect the unforeseen. I mean, things that we never anticipate. And I know on our history is that we're always having to take out small loans to pay. And so I want us to eventually get out of that scenario where we're not having to go out to loans to pay, because we're having to pay interest on that money also. But I can see us moving up gradually to that point, but just to go from this to this right away, I just don't foresee that.
Well,
But-
just to keep in mind and everything, that 10% doesn't even bring us to match what the other agencies have. Okay, let me ask you this then. Do you, as a board member, feel we could increase the amount that we pay our
And that's something
employees?
I would have to take a look at, especially the analysis that you had put together, and based on what we currently have. When was the last time we gave them the increase? And maybe a gradual yearly increase to get eventually to the point that we want to be at, to be competitive with others, whether it takes 2 or 3 years. But to kind of see a graph, I guess, that shows how we can do it so that every year we're not, you know, at 10%, 10%, 10%.
I understand, okay, I will have prepared several percentage marks for you to consider in the
I
next,
appreciate that.
in July. How about that?
Okay.
Okay?
Are you okay with that?
I'm,
Trustee Flores?
thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Adam. I am, it's very reasonable, without a doubt, what you've proposed. So, but I'd like, before I agree or disagree with the counter proposal here by our chair, what you're proposing, my question is it sustainable? Is there going to be room for more raises as the years go by? And you're saying that there's a lot of money, but is that money going to be coming in steadily and continuously and consistently? And that's where, and then the other question I have is the money that would be used for wage increases, salary increases, that has to be used. Is that the reason for doing this? Because it doesn't, usually it's capital outlay money that has to be used, or certain monies that have to be expended, or you lose it. I just want to make sure.
Yes, you're absolutely right. The operating revenue should be used by the end of the fiscal year. Now, again, that fiscal year ends in September.
Right.
So you got to carry over from year to
Yeah.
year, as we do currently. That the thing about, I'll have to look at it, but I can give you the amounts of increase in the operating revenue year over year.
Okay.
I can tell you it has increased year over year, though.
Yeah, and operating revenue then accordingly has also gone up.
Right.
Okay. So I think we need to look at that before we make, I mean, I'm inclined to say go ahead with what you've proposed, only because, we should value employees, we should value their time, and, but not at the risk of, kind of like shooting ourselves in the foot, as they say.
I understand. Now, keep in mind and everything that this 10% that is being proposed at this point is not necessarily would be 10% again next year.
Okay.
Okay?
But
We're
it would-
trying to get us closer to the mark in comparison to other agencies and everything. And that's going to be a steady, I would assume, steady increase and all, but it's not going to be nearly that drastic.
Okay, it won't be drastic and it won't be catastrophic.
I do not believe that it
Right.
would be, no.
Okay, 'cause that's what we
The thing is, it
want.
would, if we take a little nibble, 5% here, 5% there, we have to wait until inflation comes down before it's even met.
And inflation isn't going to come down. I mean, the prospective,
No, it's
Well, just
never
the cost of living.
it's just going to be,
Yeah,
horrible.
it's never going to go
Continue.
down. It's always going to go up.
More than
that's
likely,
enough.
it will continue to increase in everything. But the closer that we are to that percentage, and the better off that we, have to offer our employees.
Good. Well, I hope you come back with a good picture, because that is palatable for the entire board, because at this point, I'm inclined to go along with what you've proposed. But we do have to.
Well, and I think is my biggest concern too is that we're always having to borrow the money to get us through a month or a pay period or a quarter. We're having to go out for loans.
Have we
because
done
we
that?
don't have enough cash on hand.
That's the idea, is to be able to have cash on hand and having these amounts in the bank. Unfortunately, we've come up with a roadblock, and that is the Texas 5307 funds.
Right.
We should have received them long before now, and we would have been completely in the black and have some in excess of what we do currently. And you'll see next meeting, after I complete the fiscal year and everything, how much we should have had.
Right. But we don't have.
We don't, unfortunately. And unfortunately, it's not due to our efforts.
Right. No, I understand.
And that's the whole
That's
part.
understandable. No, I understand, but
When are we getting that?
yeah, pardon?
When are we getting that money?
I-
Are we
I
ever
know
gonna
they
get that
requested the money just hasn't come, right?
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
The money has been requested, it just has not arrived. It's not in our bank.
Well, unfortunately, it is not. And we don't know the specifics as to why, no matter how many inquiries we make.
Why?
Yeah.
Now, we're closer. We got the entries made into the system. We're just waiting on approvals.
No, I understand.
So is it the feds or is it El Paso's distribution?
I would have to say that it's the feds in that region. Because remember, we're talking a different region from,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's no telling. I mean, you can call the president still and probably not get it.
Oh, he wouldn't even answer
just-
your,
yeah.
he wouldn't even answer your call.
Yeah. So you understand where I'm coming from on this, and then also the
Absolutely.
fact that, and I think Mr. Armijo's going to answer this question later, is by allocating that much more money, are we affecting operations? Because we're trying to increase routes, and especially, you know how I am about Sierra County, Elephant Butte, Williamsburg, in that area, that we provide that service. So are we going to be able to do that?
Actually, that is one of the things that we are working towards.
And I saw that it was
Yeah.
one of the items here. So, okay.
So
Okay, now as far as this particular resolution,
motion, because of resolution, we need to get this approved so we could send something up to the state. That's why it's called tentative budget. Then we'll come back next month for a final. What I might recommend for today is that we approve the COLA, because that's a timing issue with the employees. And we could put a hold on the adjustment
Okay.
and then give you what I think would be a better presentation next month, which would be a
I think
multi-year
that would be fair.
approach.
Where's the resolution? Are they in the front?
It's in the back.
That's probably under action items.
So you're saying to bifurcate or is the resolution already?
Just approve the tentative budget without the 5% adjustment. Go ahead with the COLA.
Yeah.
That way, because that's timing for employees to get something in their next pay period,
Right.
January, July.
right.
Okay.
Not this pay period, to do this.
So, I mean, I
Next
know
paper in
that,
2 weeks.
Councilor Flores and I have had a lot of discussion. We haven't let the others that are participating online with
They
any
probably agree.
comments. Yeah. Any comments? Mayor Murillo, Commissioner Sanchez?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think I would just echo your thoughts, and I think that's exactly, I think we need a plan. Well, I agree with the goal of making sure that we pay the employees a competitive and a living wage. And I think we need a plan to get there. Along with the plan, I do agree that we need to ensure that we find a way to increase our reserves so that in the cases, we're not running into the cases, as you had mentioned, where we're just trying to get through each month. So I think that's an important goal. And then, just for fun, I would even love for us to find a way, consider, understanding that I think, I think we've been anticipating the funds from the El Paso, MPO sector, but hopefully once we get it, it'll be great. But I think we've been a little too optimistic, and so when we get them, it's great. But I would love for the SCRTD to figure out how we just move to a zero fare service to kind of go back to what we did last summer, and then just do that full time and really to work with Roadrunner so that we have free service throughout the county. I mean, to me, when we go through the revenues, the fare box is not a huge contributor to the revenues. And so I think when you look at it from that perspective versus how important public transportation is, we should have a goal to figure out how to get that done. But again, that's just my personal take. But I agree with Madam Mayor Barraza, Madam Chair, sorry, with her comments. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner Sanchez. So the resolution is on page 13 of our packet, and we can make a motion to approve this resolution with the condition that we include the 5% cost of living increase And when the final budget comes before us in July, that we will look at the additional 5%
Yes, thank you.
adjustment.
Well, point of order.
Yes.
Doesn't the resolution have to have language in it when it's approved? Or how are we going to say that this is
It's currently
read
just
in-
to approve the budget, so we could add language.
Right.
Oh, so we can add language?
Uh-huh. And I think.
So where
think
would
you need
we
to say
add
anything
it?
about
Can
the
we
color. You
go
can
on the
say
record?
That you approve it under the resolution minus or but
With a
deferral of
condition.
5%.
Well, yeah,
condition.
the condition.
Okay, and
Oh, with a
which,
condition.
would it be a whereas paragraph then?
We could add that, yeah.
Then why
That
don't
should do
you reiterate, state what that,
Okay. Sure, what I
the
just said.
condition, what you just
Okay,
said?
with a condition?
Yeah, so it would be the third whereas?
Yes.
Yes. So we can add into the resolution FY 23-22, a third, whereas staff amend the proposed budget to only include a 5% cost of living adjustment. And when the final budget comes before us, we'll look at the additional 5% adjustment.
Okay.
Is that okay?
We can wordsmith it, but that sounds fine. Yeah.
Okay,
That sounds good.
okay,
Excellent. Thank
okay.
you.
So we could have a motion?
So moved by Flores.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor by Councilor Flores with the resolution as I stated before. And if we could have a second, please? Okay, second by Commissioner Sanchez. Any other comments, discussion regarding this resolution?
Wasn't that Diana who seconded?
Was it
Diana, was
Diane?
that you who seconded?
Was it Diane or was it?
It was
Oh,
me.
I'm sorry, that seconded. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I apologize.
No
Okay,
worries.
okay,
Don't be
so
like that,
my
Diane.
correction. My correction is it was seconded by Mayor Murillo. Any other comments, discussion? Becky, if we could have a roll call, please.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Yvonne Flores,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez,
Yes.
Diana Murillo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the motion does pass. Okay, thank you all for that discussion. Okay, the next item is FY 2024 District Grant Award from NMDOT. Mr. Armijo?
Yes, thank you. So this will be brief. I've covered most everything, but if you can look in your packet and look to page 25 under the budget awards. So this is critical to our, I should have had this presentation before Adam, but so one of the things that came out of the index, if you look at that page, you'll see under the section 23, FY 23, section 5311 funding distribution index rank. This becomes critical because you can see SCRTD is at the very top. As you go across the page, because of our performance, we're getting an extra 5% of funding for admin. That's $8,161.94. And then we're also getting out of federal operating increase 16%, which given us an additional $82,548.36. And so, in my footnote to Adam, this is all federal funds. My rough total of that, not counting the change, is $90,000 and 9709. So over $90,000 additional federal funding. The reason this is a little bit difficult for Adam is that Adam has been presenting you with a presentation today with actual numbers that we have. We have information from the county, we have information from Sunland Park, we have information from the member agencies, we have information from the grant award for the rural. However, added to my presentation here is, and this is good news, we are one of 3 agencies in the entire state that get intercity federal funds from the rural. And so we get those in Las Cruces. They also give those in Albuquerque and up in the Santa Fe area. So 3 agencies get that. And so that really works out very well for us because we have the urbanized areas So this is a benefit to Las Cruces, because this is Las Cruces, not El Paso urban. It's Las Cruces. So this additional $90,000 has not been incorporated into the budget as of today. It will be next month. Now, also, if you look at the very end of your packet, you'll see the MOU.
So,
And-
Mr. Mijo, let me ask you this. So this additional funding, and I can't find the one you were working on our packet. You said page 25?
Yes, it's of the budget awards. Or if you go where it says MOU, it's
Okay, I've
almost the
got
last
the
page.
MOU. Okay, so that is guaranteed.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. However,
okay,
it's guaranteed by a contract.
okay.
Vice Chair, Ms. Barraza. So Mayor Barraza, so basically now, if you look at the MOU and you go to the second page, you'll see the subaward. So the information that Adam does not have for the finances right now is we don't have this agreement. It's being drafted. You'll notice that we signed it last year, or at least when I signed it in June, I got that signed, but this agreement was this is actually the amendment. This is last year's agreement. We're gonna get a new agreement, which will be signed sometime in July. And what that does, if you break it up, gets really technical, but you can see how much work Adam has to do in the budget. So in that box, it has administration, section 5311 rural. The second line, it says section 53, comma F, inner city. So it's the inner city money that has not been awarded yet. We hope to get a substantial amount of money. Last year, we got in two buckets, 71,000 for admin, and then we got inner city of 361. So we picked up almost 400,000. So Adam did kind of a plug number for last year. So he's got a little bit of the inner city in there, but he doesn't have the $90,000 award. Now, with that said, once Adam has those numbers, he rolls it up. What that's going to end up doing is where he presented to you today that we were a little low on revenue, that number changes. So our revenues will probably be in the black, is my sense, year over year. Now, with that, expenditures aren't going to change. We know what those are. We're not changing any of those. So that would then give us probably $350,000 surplus or more. In that is the grant application that he's got listed in his carryovers of the 696 infamous money from Texas. Not to belabor the complexities of that, but that grant as of September will be 24 months old.
Yeah.
We already programmed money going back to, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, October 2021 through June of last year. So we've actually already expended those funds, but they were swapped out by other funds, membership fees, MOU for the county, and so on. So we're now going to use those funds as the local match. So when that money comes in and it gets credited and we get that into a bank account, that just goes into our bank account. That'll be the biggest payday we've ever had, over $294,000. That's what is actually been submitted back in March, I believe, Adam.
That
So,
would be wonderful.
so I had this conversation with our chair, who's not with us, Mayor Padilla. The day will come, we think it's going to be August, where finally those monies come in. And it does change things, because then what Adam has not listed is where the money's going to sit. So we expect to keep about 15% of it from the budget sitting in a bank account. And so whether that's a CD, a money market, whatever, our hope is to grow interest on that. So actually, he's missing a line item that says interest to be captured, but he can fix that. So yes, that's where we are. So the bottom line is the cash that we know is the 90,000 I'm reporting right now. That will be added to the budget next month.
Okay,
How much is it, Madam?
yes.
Mr. Armijo, what is the amount of the money we're waiting for from El Paso under the 5307 distribution?
There's two grants. I made the yes, there's two grants. I made the presentation last Friday in which I did a redundant presentation. So the folks in Fort Worth want to see the money approved and programmed by the El Paso MPO in what they call the TIP, the STIP, State Transportation Improvement Plan. So that was actually done 2 years ago by Capital Metro or Sun Metro. But because it doesn't identify us, they wanted to see it. I made the presentation, the board approved it. I left the room and I actually got a thumbs up and a smile from the mayor of El Paso. I have to tell you, that's like one of my best days. So
Well,
it went
I
well.
want it in writing. Forget the
I-
thumbs up. Be la
But,
carita de
but our
Lisa.
presentation was for 6 items. And so 2 items are in the 5302 and 4 items in the 5307 for fiscal year 2023. That is 711,000. So we actually have 2 grants that we're trying to get moved in.
¿Y cuánto? How much is it?
696 and 711 combined. So about 1.4 million.
Okay, 1.4 million. Okay.
And, I mean, I think that's all great. I still would be
But-
so much more comfortable if we just had money in that reserve where Adam didn't have to go for that loan to cover our expenses. That has been my goal.
I agree.
And I think you all would be so much more comfortable with that, knowing that we have that pot of money there for you to tap into if one of the other grants doesn't come in. I think, and I'm sure Commissioner Sanchez agrees with me on this, is that has been our goal all along, is that to be comfortable and that when I know that we have that money sitting there and it's ready for you all in case of emergencies, I would be more comfortable saying yes to the increases, the 10%. We're just not there yet, and that's why I hesitate a little bit until I know that we are comfortable in paying our bills without having to go to the bank and say, I need a loan to take care of accounts payable this month, something like that. So it's not because I don't support staff, I most definitely do, but I just want to be financially stable, that we're comfortable. And I appreciate the work, Mr. Armijo, you do, definitely going out there looking for monies and bringing that money in, and Adam taking care of the money. But once we get to that point, I'm 100% confident, so, okay.
So that's
Thank
into
you.
my report. So the bottom line is we have more money that will be programmed next month.
Okay, and we don't have any
No,
action
nope.
on this one,
This is
correct?
just the
Okay.
presentation, yes.
So
Thank you.
do you, does anyone on the board have any questions for Mr. Armijo regarding the? Sure did with my notebook right now. Does anyone else have any questions regarding the district grant award from NMDOT? None? Hearing
I
and
have
seeing
one
none?
comment. I had
No, Madam
noticed,
Chair, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
noticed that Olga Nunez is on the line from.
Okay,
Center
and just
Park.
for the record, we have Olga Nunez from Solomon Park participating via computer?
WebEx.
WebEx, virtual, that's the word. Thank you. Okay, welcome, Olga. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is any board comments? Thank you. Any board comments? Hearing none, we will go on to the next item then, which is we would need a motion to close our regular meeting and go into a closed session regarding personnel matters. And items on the personnel matters is regarding the executive director. So at this time, if I could have a motion. Are we also going into closed session
For the disposal of property, yes.
for the disposal? Okay, so
items.
there's going to be 2 items, personnel matters and also disposal of property. And at this time, if I could have a motion to close our regular meeting and go into a closed session?
So moved by Flores.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor by Counselor Flores. If we could have a
Second,
second.
Sanchez.
Okay, we do have a second by Commissioner Sanchez. Any discussion regarding this motion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please, Becky.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Yvonne Flores,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez,
Yes.
Diana Murillo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Olga, did you get Olga?
I'm sorry. Olga Nunez, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion does pass for us to go into closed session, close our regular meeting, go into closed session. And I do want to quote the Open Meetings Act of 10-15-1H2 and 5 from the New Mexico State Statute of 1978. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Barraza,
Yes,
I will not be in the closed session because I'm going into another meeting at 3.
okay, very good. It will be noted. Thank you,
Okay,
Mayor
thank you.
Murillo.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good.
Myself, Mayor Barraza, votes yes, so the motion does pass unanimously. Any other business discussion before we adjourn? And just for the record, the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, July 26, 2023, here at the Doña Government Center. And any other comments, discussion? Hearing and seeing none, if there are no objections, we will adjourn this meeting. Hearing and seeing no objections, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I